Okay, shalom to everyone. Today is what day? Today is the 25th, 6th, 7th, 27th today. And it's been a very tumultuous week because we had a very interesting exchange of artillery and aircraft fire with Hezbollah. And I don't know if you get any of this media in the States, but the only success of Hezbollah and Nasrallah was that they bombarded a chicken coop. And so the whole Arab world is making fun of Nasrallah, where they're showing a chicken with the big black furry hat that he wears. That's the only thing he was capable of destroying.
Oh.
And the Israelis took out like 400, 500 launchers, and each launcher has about 20 rockets. So we destroyed about 6,000 to 7,000 rockets, which is about 7% of the weapons that Hezbollah has. So like General 4-star General Charlie, or shall I say Chuck Brown. I think he's still here in Israel. We're not hearing much about his visits, but he's coordinating all his work with the top military leadership in Israel, and he's of course relaying his instructions to the Navy people. We have been receiving information about supply from the U.S. government of weapons, and it's really unbelievable. I mean, we have been getting tremendous supply from the U.S. government, but everything is conditional, that we do not go on the offensive attack, but that we stay on the defense. The defense, I think we review this with the American military, and when they give the green light, we go ahead and attack. In other words, what we had this week was an airstrike on Hezbollah. Like I said before, they took out about 6% of the rockets that Hezbollah has. I don't know how we had the information that at 5 a.m. they're going to launch their rockets, but at 20 to 5, we destroyed 6,000 to 7,000 rockets. This is remarkable. I think that the Israeli Air Force, Israeli military, the Israeli government are working very, very much in lockstep with the U.S. military. Meanwhile, munitions are still arriving. Iran has been warned, don't. Israel is warned also, don't. But Israel coordinates the don't with the U.S. military because defensive activity is yes. And I'm going to say something, and I don't know if I have the right to say it because I may be totally wrong. And of course, we're all Trumpists here. But the Democrats have something very much in favor of them, and it's something I've been saying for many months on these Zooms, that the Israeli military marches in lockstep with the American military, and this is regardless of the politics. The bottom line, as I see it, okay, now we're now approaching September, October, November, the elections. So we have 2.5 months till the elections. I think that I'm going to say something, go out on a limb. World War I, the U.S. was an isolationist country, and President Wilson was a university professor, a leftist, socialist, kept America out of World War I for 3 years. America only entered World War I in the last year, in the 4th year. Roosevelt, Democrat, he stayed out of the war 3 years, and then Pearl Harbor, the Japanese attacked at Pearl Harbor, and the U.S. entered the war. But it was, again, an American president, a Democrat president, who decided to fight Japan to the finish. And World War I was a fight to the finish with the Axis powers, which was Germany and Italy and Austria. And so, Wilson was kind of senile by the end of his term. I don't know if it's true. I heard that President Wilson's wife actually was running the White House. because her husband was senile. And of course, President Roosevelt, Democrat president, um, goes down in history as the president who led America to victory in World War II, the president who made America world power number one. And now what we have is we have an American president bumbling and bumbling, and everyone's making fun of him. But it's not the president, it's the advisors, the people who run the military industrial complex. And I have a suspicion that at the end of the day, the Hezbollah will be taken out completely. Again, you have to remember, Lebanon, which used to be a Christian Arab country, the people are starving. There's no electricity. There's no water. This is without Israel having anything to do with it. I think the legacy of President Biden, I don't want to say Kamala, because Kamala is nothing. She does what she's told. I think Lebanon will be able to rebuild when this is all over. When will it be over? We don't know. It could be tomorrow. It could be in a week, a month. I think that, I don't know, in our news yesterday, there was a very interesting report about the 5 military leaders in Hezbollah who are fighting for the position of Shukur. Shukur was the chief of staff, quote unquote, of the Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Israel took him out. So now there's a vacuum in power, and the 5, I don't remember their names, but we will be hearing those names. The 5 leaders in Hezbollah who are closest to Nasrallah are working. They're fighting each other to see who will become the new chief of staff. I see a degrading of Hezbollah, just as we all see a degrading of Hamas in Gaza. I don't know, by the way, if you heard about this. Did you all hear that Sinwar is running around Gaza dressed as a woman? Anyway, I'm just telling you, the news reports are that he came out of his tunnel. The tunnel thing scares me a little, because we were told all the time that the hostages, the Israeli hostages, were there all the time surrounding Sinwar. And if he's not in the tunnel, my suspicion is they killed all the hostages. We got back 6 Israeli bodies of hostages who had bullets in them. They were executed by the Hamas. So the leftists here in Israel blame Netanyahu. Because of Netanyahu, they got shot. This is crazy stuff. We are at war. We are doing what we have to do. But my point is, I think that eventually the war in Gaza will be over, plus minus some terrorist activity, and we Israelis will be part of the rebuilding of Gaza, and so the Gazans will actually begin to have a life. We will be part of the rebuilding of Lebanon. So, the Lebanese will be able to thank Israel. Maybe we'll have relations with Lebanon after that. We've got to get rid of Hezbollah. And finally, the jewel in the crown is Iran. Iran is working to create nuclear weapons, which will not only use against Israel. And again, if you know the history of Islam, the Shiites are fighting a battle of 1,400 years with the Sunnis. And I've been saying for a long time that the Shiites actually need the Jews to help defend them from the Sunnis. But what we see is a very ironic thing, that it is the Sunnis that have been joining the Abraham Accords with Israel. But like I said before, what I see happening is that the legacy of President Biden, as bitter as the pill is, the legacy of Biden is the defeat of Hamas, the total destruction of Hamas, replacement of Hamas with a eventually civilian Palestinian government, which will be monitored and will have to work with Israel in peace. Our leadership has said we are ready for any Palestinian leadership that doesn't want to kill the Jews. So obviously Abbas of the PLO wants to kill the Jews, so he's not going to be in it, and neither will Hamas. But I think Gaza will be rebuilt, Lebanon will be rebuilt, and Iran will be rebuilt. We will see regime change. I believe we will see regime change in Iran. And as much as Biden did not want to have anything to do with that, Biden just wanted to stay out of it. Again, this is like President Wilson in World War I, President Roosevelt in World War II. Democrat presidents were isolationists, did not want to know about intervention in foreign wars. And what can I say? You know, America is the great policeman of the world. Even though Biden made the stupid mistake of withdrawing from Afghanistan as he did, a lot of the weapons that are arriving from Iran came from Afghanistan. And these weapons are now being smuggled into Judea and Samaria. And the Israeli military now is working on purging the terrorists in Judea and Samaria of the weapons they are receiving from Iran, which is American weaponries that were left behind in Afghanistan. An interesting point today, I read in one of my sources. I don't even remember. I read all the sources and then I forgot who sent me what. But Iran and Pakistan have big provinces called Baluchistan. Now, Baluchistan is a very, very relatively empty place. It's desert, it's mountains. These mountains contain a lot of gold, copper, other rare materials. I know the Chinese are very interested in taking these metals out of Baluchistan. The Baluchistanis were the ones who were behind not the 9/11 attacks, but the first attack in New York City in 1992, where they brought in a truck full of dynamite and brought it in under the World Trade Center. This was the Baluchi attack. Ramzi Youssef was the engineer. He's from Baluchistan. The Baluchis are also like the Afghans. They are a mountain people. They are killing Chinese technicians. They are killing truck drivers. They are killing anyone who comes through and as part of the plans of Pakistan to develop that southwestern province of Baluchistan. And of course, you have Baluchistan in Iran, southeast. In other words, Baluchistan could be a very wealthy country if they both broke away from Pakistan and Iran. That's a very interesting thing that I'm sure the military-industrial complex is looking at very carefully. I don't think for a moment that anyone in the U.S. government is interested in tearing apart Iran and Pakistan and creating a new country called Baluchistan, which of course would be greatly offensive to the Iranian people. Also, in northwestern Iran, you have Kurds, you have Azeris. All these people want to break away from Iran and join up with the Azeris want to join up with Azerbaijan. The Kurds want to join up with the Kurdistan in Iraq, break away from Iran. And very simply, what we know from the Bible as Elam is the trunk of modern day Iran. But Iran today includes many, many other minorities, and all of them want to break away from Iran and rejoin with all these maps were wrong. These minorities want to break away from Iran and join up with their compatriots, Azerbaijan, Kurdistan, Baluchistan, also the Arabs in the southwest of Iran, where all the oil is. Personally, in my dreams at night, I dream about, dismembering Iran and letting all these minorities join up with their parent countries that they want to join. But what we're looking at here is an Iranian government today that's killing its own people, killing young people, a terrorist regime. And it says in Isaiah that Elam will be totally destroyed. That hasn't happened yet. So we have to watch what is happening today, and then to see, hey, wait a second, isn't this in the Bible? And Elam is Iran. So anyway, to conclude this part of our meeting, I believe that the U.S. will look back in a few months, either before the elections in November or after the elections, that Hamas has been totally destroyed. Lebanon has been liberated from Hezbollah. Lebanon will be rebuilt. And in Iran, we're going to see regime change, which in the end will be very good for everyone, because the Jewish people and the Persians, Elam is the Persians, never had a problem. And I think we're going to be looking at many historic changes when this war is over. And one of the funny things is that America will be doing what God wants it to do, even though America does not want to get involved in these foreign wars. I think the escape from Afghanistan by the U.S. military, which is a bumbling error, in my opinion, gave all of these groups the impetus to break away from Iran and to say basically that America would not get involved at all with what's happening in Iran. And I don't know, I think it is a possibility that Iran is going to be broken apart into, and parts of it will go to form other nations. So that's something we need to watch in the future. Meanwhile, the Israeli military is, I don't want to say licking its wounds, but the Israeli military is working with the American military, and we are doing our accountability with the American military to see exactly what weapons we're getting. In other words, of course, I'm such a genius, but I have no idea what weapons we're getting. I just know it's a lot of weaponries. I don't know what supplies we're getting. And, you cannot plan air attacks or any kind of attacks without the right amount of munitions. So I think we're looking at the munitions that are coming in. The Navy is there, and we have these two aircraft carriers. I don't know if it's 2, 4, or 5. I think some of the aircraft carriers are being recycled back to the States, for R&R. So from what I understand, at this time it's 2 aircraft carriers, or maybe 2 aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean and 1 or 2 in the Persian Gulf, which are totally dedicated to Iran if Iran misbehaves. And I think these Muslims, and I'm not condemning them. I think simply it's a work of God. These Muslims keep miscalculating, and they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And then God works things out in interesting ways. So that's my take on what's happening right now. One of the things I wanted to say before we started recording is that, and I spoke about this last week also, that a book is coming out in Hebrew, and I have volunteered to translate it into English and help to get it published in English so we can bring this to the States. And it's the history of the Jewish settlers from the very beginning, in which I was also involved 50 years ago. Rachel was very involved. Rachel was always bringing the TV crews to film me getting arrested. And all of this is in a book, which I didn't even know about. And I was just told about this a few weeks ago. The book has to be translated into English. They don't have the means to translate it. I said, I'll do it. Now something new has come up, and it's not really very new, but for all of you, it is very new, and some of you mentioned it before the recording, and that is, that Israel did not want Gaza. When I was in the Army spokesman's office in 1993, we were told in 1993, and this is when Rabin was prime minister. This was before anything happened there in Gaza. We were told that they're building tunnels. We knew about the tunnels from 1993. So what happened on October 7th, nobody took it seriously. We should have taken it seriously, because from 1993 they were doing it. When Ariel Sharon decided to pull out of Gaza in 2005, 2006, he was saying the Gazans are building tunnels, they're blowing up Israeli military positions, and Israel does not have the millions of Jewish and otherwise Zionist elements that could come to live in Israel, and to bolster the presence of the U.S. military, the Israeli military. And so he said, you know what? Here are the keys. The world will not allow us to do anything. Here are the keys. And figuratively, I want to say that Ariel Sharon did not hand over the keys. He threw the keys at the Arabs and said, take it. We don't want it. It's a big sewer full of tunnels, and just don't fire rockets. And Condoleezza Rice was saying that if one rocket is fired, the U.S. will intervene. And you all know what happened. The moment the Israelis pulled out, they're firing rockets. Did the U.S. military intervene? No. It's not the first time. It happens very often that the U.S. military promises, or the U.S. government promises something, and it doesn't happen. So we knew about the tunnels in 1993. We knew about the tunnels in 2005, 2006. We gave the keys of Gaza away. We uprooted all the Jewish settlements. And basically, we said, this is like a Biden moment. Instead of we're running away from Afghanistan, here we're running away from Gaza. So what does God do? God said, I didn't give you permission to run away from Gaza. And so we're back in Gaza. And I don't have to tell you all the things that happened on the 7th of October. God blinded the Israeli military intelligence not to see what the Hamas terrorists were about to do. And it had to be so evil and so violent and so vicious that the Israelis had absolutely no alternative but to reconquer Gaza. I mean, think for a moment. Could we have retaken Gaza without 7th of October? No, we had not only a reason to attack, we were totally obligated to attack. This also created a chain reaction of anti-Semitism all over the world, where the Israelis are committing genocide. We're not committing genocide. We're just, clearing out the terrorists. The problem is 99% of Gaza is terrorists. So we're back in Gaza. The debate in Israel today is kind of like a volcano ready to erupt, where many Israelis are saying that we have to go back to all the Jewish settlements that were uprooted in 2006. All these settlements have to be reestablished. So listen carefully, because I'm going to say some crazy stuff now. So this week I had a very interesting telephone call with Ovadia Avrahami, a good friend of mine, 90 years old, very sharp. And he says, we just do not have enough Jews. We have to bring in Christians from the West. Now, what I've been saying is we have to bring in Christians who are married to Jews, so that it's Jewish nuclear families. He said, no, we have to bring in all the Zionist Christians from all over the world who want to settle Gaza. And this new blood, this new population coming into Gaza will help us to resettle Gaza and to establish security together with the Israeli people and the Israeli army. And I said to him, well, I have to forget about Gaza, think for a moment about Lebanon. Lebanon, we've been there 4 times already. We were there in 78, 82, 2005. And Ehud Barak withdrew in the year 2000. He stabbed the Christians in the Christian South Lebanese army, who were our allies, stabbed them in the back. So actually, our 4th time. We're going to go back into Lebanon. The Hezbollah will not leave the south of Lebanon. The Israeli settlers in the north of Israel cannot go back to their homes until there is a security zone. We had a security zone. There was an organization called the Four Mothers. And the Four Mothers were protesting all the time. And so Ehud Barak decided to withdraw from the south of Lebanon. And you all know what's happening with Lebanon. So we have to go back in because no matter how much we want to give land away, God has a plan. And the plan is we will have to settle or resettle the south of Lebanon, bring in people, Christians, not just Jews, Christians. And in my opinion, I spoke about this many times. I've written about this in my 4th book, which I'm working on again now. I want to see the reestablishment of a Christian Arab country called Lebanon, the country that was there until 1975. Again, rabbis don't want to think about Christians coming to live in Israel, but I call it the Israeli Commonwealth. Or you could say the United States of Israel. In other words, you'll have a lot of Christians, a lot of Jews living in Gaza, a lot of Christians, a lot of Jews living in Lebanon. And that's not all. I spoke about this also on these Zooms. You have a population of 700,000 Druze. The Druze are descended from Jethro. Got to know the Bible. These people are on the mountain of the Druze in South Syria, and they are going to be wiped out by ISIS. Remember ISIS? They're still there. And so the Druze are demanding from Netanyahu that Netanyahu invade, are you listening? Invade the south of Syria, link up with the Druze, and that the borders of Israel, which will include the Druze, will reach halfway to Iraq. So I don't know if you're hearing what I'm saying. The borders of Israel are going to grow. And we will have Druze from Lebanon and Syria. We will have Christians from Lebanon and Syria, and Christians from the West coming in. And we will have Jews who will be coming home, fleeing from anti-Semitic demonstrations at Columbia University and all the other universities. So what the Arabs are doing, there's some Arabs who say, oh, that will be great. Get all the Jews in one place so we can kill all of them. But what's going to happen, God is in charge. So what I think we're going to see happening is we're going to see the borders of Israel expanding. We're going to see the population of Israel, the Commonwealth of Israel, expanding, which will include Christians and Druze. I think also when Iran has been defeated, the Shiites will wake up and they will, especially in Syria, the Shiites will join the Christian Druze Israeli alliance in Syria. Again, it probably all depends on receiving enough immigrants coming to Israel. I don't expect that the rabbis would allow Christians to live in Israel itself. But if we have the United States of Israel, meaning Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, I don't know, maybe Jordan. We don't want it. We don't want any of these lands. We want to be left alone. Jewish mothers want their kids close to home for Shabbat dinner. So my worst enemy is the Jewish mother. But I think God has a plan. And God's plan is for the Jews and Christians to stand together and rebuild the entire Middle East in preparation for the coming or the return of the Messiah. So I feel very blessed that I'm able to talk to you here about this. I don't know how long I'm going to live. I don't know if I'm going to see any of this, but I think I will. I think God wants this all to happen. And, you know, when you see Jews and Christians together, the land is green, the land is fertile. When you see the Middle East without Jews and Christians and controlled and misruled by the Muslims, everything is yellow, everything is parched earth, burnt out. And in the book of Genesis, God says to Adam and Eve, "You will tend my garden." And I think that we are looking at the Jews and the Christians turning the entire Middle East green, because we have the desalination capabilities, we have the solar power to give the electricity for the desalination, and we will turn the Middle East into a Garden of Eden. Lebanon was a Garden of Eden. There's no reason it shouldn't be again. The problem is getting rid of the Hezbollah terrorists. Any questions? I know Lori always starts off with the questions.
Well, I was wondering about the news of the hostage that was rescued that came out today. If you had any information on that.
You know, in the New Testament, it talks a lot about wars and rumors of wars. And nowadays we hear about hostages, rumors of live hostages and rumors of dead hostages. In our news today, there was no mention of a live hostage. So it could be, but many times the Israeli government keeps things under wraps, because something is cooking. And if Sinwar is running around Gaza dressed as a woman, I think we're very close to finding the hostages also. Stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I know Susan always has questions. I'm picking on Susan now.
I think the idea came out after we started this recording on the news of the hostage rescue. I'm seeing that it came out like maybe 10 minutes after we started this recording.
Turning on my cell phone, my smartphone, to see if they say anything.
It was
first they said he escaped, and then they retracted that and they said he was rescued.
I think it was a 52-year-old.
Okay. Breaking good news: hostage escaped from Hamas. Initial reports indicate that hostage Farhan El-Qadi, 53, from Rahat, an Arab Israeli from the city of Rahat, near Beersheba, escaped Hamas custody in the Rafah region and fled through the remaining tunnels in the city until he encountered Israeli forces. He has been extracted from Gaza and brought to Soroka Hospital in Beersheba. Well, that's thank you, Lori. You see, there's always breaking news. I don't know where all that came from.
That's
good news. We got one more out.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says premature announcement. In the wake of reports that a hostage had escaped, it was originally announced that the IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari would give a special address at 3 p.m. sharp. I was watching TV at 3 p.m. There was no news. Numerous Israeli journalists published the announcement only to retract it a short while later when it was canceled. I don't know. There are things happening that we don't know about. But it's good that you told me, because I have my smartphone here, so immediately I'm getting all these announcements.
Avi?
I hope he's alive. I hope he's well.
Avi?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
One second. One second. Who's talking now? I want to see who's talking.
Sasha.
Annette?
Sasha. Can you hear me?
It's Safra.
It's Judas. Judas is talking, but Judas, we can hardly hear you. Annette, stop your video on.
Well, can you hear me now? I think I have my internet is not sharp. Can you hear me now?
I don't hear anything you're saying, Judith.
You can't hear. Okay, well, I could refresh and maybe you can hear me. It's my internet.
A little better.
It's my internet is not strong. Can you hear me now better?
Yes, now I hear you better.
Okay, I got a little closer. Anyway, my question is about the American response to the American hostage. That America has not done anything as far as we know. Do you have any thoughts about the American hostage that we pray is still alive? That America has not done anything to get the hostage back. Any thoughts?
We have a saying here in Israel that the Americans speak American and that the Israelis are torn between speaking American and speaking Arabic. In other words, it's not the language, it's the mentality. And there's a lot of wishful thinking in the US government. And they think that something can happen when it cannot ever happen. Because the bottom line of Hamas is not to release the hostages at all, but to keep them as an insurance policy for the lives of the top Hamas leadership. So Biden was constantly saying, oh, we're on the phone 24/7 and we're doing everything we can. I'm not saying it's baloney. I'm saying that in their minds, they're doing everything they can. But the one who decides is Sinwar, and Sinwar is not going to release the hostages. So if indeed it's true that this Rahat citizen escaped, it's because he was able to escape. Maybe the guard wasn't paying very close attention. About the American hostages, I don't know. I'm afraid they killed all the hostages, or almost all of them.
But the question is, what is America doing about it?
Nothing.
Or is it the same mindset?
If America talks American, and if America does not learn how to speak Arabic and to understand what the Arabs are planning, Israel also has to pay for the mistakes of the Americans. And we have generals and former generals that don't speak Arabic. I don't mean the language. I'm talking about the mentality. And they're thinking a two-state solution, give the Palestinians a Palestinian state. It's all nonsense. It's all crazy. These are the same crazy people who agreed to the Oslo Accords in 1992. And we've lost thousands of Israelis because of the foolishness of these Israeli leaders who don't understand that Islam's plan is to kill every Jew. They're never going to give in to anything except temporary deals. So I'm really hoping that this Israeli citizen from Rahat, who's an Arab, a Muslim, did succeed in escaping. I really am hoping for him. There were quite a few Israeli Arabs at the Nova Festival when the terrorists attacked. There was no consideration for them. There was no consideration for the American citizens. At the very beginning of the war, there were two Russian ladies, Israeli ladies, but with Russian passports. Putin got them out because they were listening to Putin. But people are mocking President Biden and not doing anything. But again, I have to repeat what I said at the very beginning, that I believe that in spite of the fumbling and bumbling of Biden and the U.S. military, I think we're going to see some really remarkable legacies coming out of this war. Unfortunately, the captives, the hostages, I pray they're alive, but unfortunately, it might be that they have to be considered, victims of the war. I'm going to keep my phone in my hand here, and I'll constantly be watching to see if there's any news.
Avi, this is Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth.
How are you?
Good,
So-
good. I'm glad to see you here, and I'm glad to see you, or that you're watching the TV show in another hour with Brand Fricker. And are you also on Janice Turkeys or not?
No,
That's Thursday. Okay. Also, I have to tell Marla that we have a gentleman in North Carolina. Fridays at 10 a.m. I do a 10 a.m. Eastern. I do a Zoom with a gentleman by the name of Brunette. His first name is Andrew Burnett. And so I don't know if anyone wants information, I'll ask Andrew if he's open to having more people listening in. But he's in North Carolina. Actually, he's in South Carolina, right off of, for those of you who know the highway 77 and Highway 5. So he's right there.
oh, wow.
I would like the information, yes, please, if it's
Okay.
open.
Andrew
Thank you.
Brunet. Yeah. So little by little, hopefully, I have 4 Zooms a week. Hopefully it's going to continue to grow.
I was going to ask you about Sinwar since he's out masquerading as a woman. Do you think do you think they surrounded him with the hostages just to protect him? So if he was found and they did kill him, then they would be responsible for killing the hostages as well?
Well, I think what happened was, if you remember, Israel eliminated Mohammed Deif. Mohammed Deif just couldn't take it anymore being in the tunnels. I think it's a tragedy that the hostages have to be in tunnels.
Yes.
He came out of the tunnel, Israel heard about it, and Israel eliminated him. So Sinwar cannot take it anymore in the tunnels. He's out, so he dresses up like a woman. They're going to get him.
Yeah. But do you think the hostages are still
I told
alive?
you, I'm very pessimistic. I pray to God that I'm wrong. I pray to God that the hostages are alive, and we'll get them back. But, it's now, if this guy from Rahat really escaped, it'll go from 109 to 108 bodies and people who are held by Hamas. I don't know how many are. They're saying they're expecting 30 to 40 to be alive still. They were talking about 70, then it's 30, 40, then it was 18. Like, we don't know.
Right.
One of the crazy things is that they are refusing, Hamas is refusing to give us a list of the names of who's alive and who's dead. We have no list, nothing.
Well, they certainly won't have any use for them, and they can't negotiate because if they don't know who they have, or even, if they don't know who they have, then they're most likely not. They may be dead because they have no more negotiation leverage there, right?
Right. Again, we'll just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, the army is doing its job. The army is doing the best it can to find the hostages and free them. And like I said before, bodies or alive, whatever we can get, we get out of there. We get out of there, because in Judaism, people have to be buried as fast as possible after they're dead.
Yes.
Avi,
Yeah.
what's the situation on the ground in Judea and Samaria? Is it pretty much the same, or is there increased terrorist activity in the last?
It definitely increased terrorist activity. And what we are seeing is continued massive smuggling of weapons from Iran, from Afghanistan, that the Americans left behind, dynamite and guns and bombs and all kinds of whatever an army needs. The border with Jordan is very open, very porous. Were planned to have to patrol, create an iron curtain, if you will. The Jordanian government is also very threatened by Iran. And so the Jordanians complain all the time, but they are part of the coalition to defend Israel from Jordanian rockets. But a lot of these weapons are coming through to the terrorists in Judea and Samaria. And I'm telling you, you know, like before I was talking with Susan about, I don't know when I'm coming back to the States. It's very hard to know. Because the war in Gaza might be over, the war in Lebanon might be over, but the war in Judea and Samaria is not over. And we are surrounded on all sides by these Arab villages. Let's say our community is 250 families. I don't want to say how many guns we have or you know how many people are trained, but a lot of our people are trained. But if 2,000-3,000 terrorists try to overwhelm our communities like they did on October the 7th, it's not going to be easy for us to defend our homes. I have to be here with Rachel, defending my wife and my family, my home, my community. We do have quite a few officers in the Army and police. A lot of our ladies have guns, and they are officers also in the police. So, you know, I hope it doesn't come to that. But listen, you can cross the Jordan in a half track and reach Kedar in 10 minutes. We're very close to the Jordan River. So a lot depends on how strong the Israeli forces will be on the Jordan River. And if we are in a full-fledged war with Hezbollah in Lebanon and our troops are in Gaza, we have less. Basically, they're going to say to us in the army, you're on your own. So, you know, like I'm here, I've been in Israel a year and a half. I haven't come to the States. I haven't been able really to work at all, except for the Zooms. And the moment we hear sirens going off, I get out my pistol and I do according to what my commanders here tell us. And I'm 75, playing army, you know, army games. So we'll see. But I am glad to be here. Let me tell you, I would be going crazy if I were in the States, knowing that our settlement was a target. Again, don't forget, and I've been talking about this. I believe, I think none of you really have ever been to my house. Just as we are 10 minutes from the Dead Sea and the Jordan River, I believe the day will come that Jerusalem's border will expand all the way to the Dead Sea and the Jordan River. And the millions of immigrants who will come to Israel, you know, Kedar will just become another community in East Jerusalem. So I'm very excited because I think God has plans. And I'm very glad that I have chosen, as far as I understand correctly, I have chosen to be on God's side. And I know you all, or as they say in Texas, y'alls, have chosen to be on God's side. So bring it on.
Avi, you do have a lovely home. There's no question. But
Thank you.
What do you see as being the longer term solution to the Judea Samaria thing? That is there any thoughts about settling more Jews in the area? Is it a matter of dispersing the area?
1 second, breaking news. What are you saying? כן, ראיתי, אבל אחר כך אמרו שזה מוקדם לדבר על זה. Rachel is advising me, Rachel is advising me that it has been confirmed that the Bedouin from Rahat escaped and he's home. So praise God. We're down from 109 to 108. I'll tell you, I think that the Hamas is collapsing little by little. What were we saying, Pastor Glenn?
I'm just thinking in terms of long-range possibilities in Judea, Samaria, with Hamas and Hezbollah becoming less of a threat. Judea, Samaria doesn't seem to be improving.
Well, listen, remember I was talking about a book that is coming out now that I'm going to translate into English, and it's about the good old days in the late 1960s and early 1970s, where we ran around trying to set up partisan settlements. Partisan settlements means we bring a tent and then we get pulled down by the military. There were no Jews in Judea and Samaria at that time. And I don't want to say as a result of our work, but we were the vanguard. And today there's somewhere between 500,000 to 600,000 Jews and some Christians living in Judea and Samaria. The Arabs are more. They're over 1 million, 1.5 million. But like I said before, I'm a firm believer in massive immigration to Israel coming from the West. And so I think that my house and my community will be in the center of a tremendous metropolitan growth, all the way to the Dead Sea. Basically, from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea will be one big city. It's great to be alive at this time. We see God fulfilling his promises. Not only fulfilling his promises, fulfilling his commandments to settle the land. And like I said before, we have to have the Christians here with us too. Messiah is not coming or returning only for the Jews. He's not coming or returning only for the Southern Baptists. He's coming or returning for everyone. We are really living in the Messianic era. I'm very excited that God has allowed me until now to stay alive and be part of it. Any more questions?
Yeah, I'd like to know what your view or opinion is of how some of the Democratic candidates or politicians like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Kennedy have turned to support Trump in this election. I think that's a really interesting change of events.
Yeah, I've been following that very closely. I'm a great fan of Tulsi Gabbard and a big fan of RFK. And I think what we're going to be seeing in these elections in the coming 2 months, we're going to see a lot of good guys from all different places, including former Democrats, are going to come and join Trump. I hate to use we say in Hebrew, Lashon Hara, or the evil tongue.
Right.
But I think that the dingbat is going to lose. I mean, I don't think she has a chance. She doesn't know anything. I mean, like,
No.
she was talking about her participation in the great things that have been done by the Democrats. Yeah, like running away from Afghanistan and leaving all those weapons there, and Americans that are stranded in Afghanistan, people
Right.
who worked with us, worked with the American government, being left behind, and crazy. You're right. I think we will be surprised, and we will see more people coming over to Trump.
I just think the line in the sand has been drawn in this country, that you have the severe left in their communistic values and views, and then you have the Democrats that are not for all of that and see Trump as an alternative to at least I think it's going to bring more people together. And I'm sure the left, far left, is really just losing their minds over this.
You know, I have to tell you something. I'm very embarrassed because it's my sister. And it was her birthday last week, and I called her. She doesn't talk to me. I don't talk to her. But when it's birthday time, we exchange greetings. I spoke to my sister on the phone 22 minutes. This was a record. Because usually when I talk to her, there's a fight, and she picks the fight. And then the discussion ends until the next birthday. And, so I'm talking about Putin. I'm talking about Ukraine. I'm talking about something that, I don't think she should have a problem with. And I said, Putin's crazy. Putin killed 600,000 of his own Russian boys. And he killed 400,000 Ukrainians. 1 million people. And so my sister says, yeah, Trump also killed 1 million Americans because he didn't give them the respirators. He gave the respirators to the Russians. This is what my sister answers me. And so I bit my lips, I bit my tongue. I had the blood streaming out of my mouth, but I wouldn't answer. I love my sister. What can I do? You have many families that have one child going in the direction of the left, one child going in the direction of the right. And listen, if God is in control, which I believe he is, why should I fight with my sister over this?
Correct.
Trump is the best president America ever had. And
Yes.
you know what? I was 35 years in military reserves. And listen, when you're in the military, and usually the good guys are Republicans. But when you're in the military, everything is cuss words and crazy stuff. That's what makes him so popular. So there are a few people who say, oh, no, he says bad words. I'm not voting for him. 34 million Christians didn't vote for him. They didn't vote at all. 34 million Christians in America could have saved the election in 2020, and they didn't. I was once, I won't say where, I was in the Midwest, and at a prophecy radio thing. And there was one lady who I love very much. We're good friends. And she was talking about a church she would never go into because the pastor said the word freaking. Like, that guy's a freaking idiot or something. Well, so there are people who say that's the F word. She said, I'll never go into that church again. There's some people, they're such purists, and then they allow the bad guys to take over.
Right. And I think that's just them using everything as an excuse not to make a commitment or decision. It's pretty sad. It really is, because you're right. 30 million Christians did not vote in the 2020 election. And
Right.
they could have, but okay, that was God. He had to show us something here, which I hope we've all learned a lesson with.
I have to say something else also, and I've mentioned this many times on these Zooms. My parents grew up in Argentina, and they moved to America in 1947. So I was born in the United States in 1949. There's a president now in Argentina. Some people say he converted to Judaism. Some people said that he just loves the Jews. He has a Chabad rabbi advising him. And Argentina should be one of the greatest countries in the world. But because of the Peronist system from 1944 until today, we're talking about 80 years, the Argentine economy was totally destroyed by these Peronists. Peronists are actually socialists. But actually, they're not even socialists. They just steal everything. And when I heard Javier Milei, president of Argentina, said that we are going to make Argentina great again. And what is the abbreviation? MAGA, MAGA. We're going to make MAGA, make Argentina great again. Paraguay just joined Argentina in a decision to move the embassy to Jerusalem. So there are some countries, if America has a strong president and a strong government, and people stop making fun of these stupid Americans, that'll be good for the whole world. Any more questions? We have about another 5-10 minutes because I have to get ready for the TV show with Brand Fricker. But I'm still with you, and if anyone has any more questions.
It's not necessarily a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It's about unity. It's about all the separation of the believers, the Christians, the Jews that are in different places. And we have a command for unity, for being together. Do you have any thoughts on how unity can be encouraged among us? I mean, all of us.
I have good news for you. God is in control, and God is going to make sure to it that the Jews and the Christians and the Messianics, all together, all those who love God, will be brought together in unity. That's my faith.
Well, thank you for saying that. That is a very encouraging word. Very encouraging. And I agree with you. Okay? We need to be united. And
Good.
this small group here evidently is united. We need more. Okay? We need more. And I agree with you. That is what Hashem is doing. Right?
You've got to get closer to the microphone. I just don't hear anything you're saying.
I just said that Hashem is creating the unity in his people. Did you get that one? The unity is from Hashem. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you heard what I said. God is in control.
Exactly.
The only decision we all have to make, God does not force us to make decisions. We have to be smart enough to make the right decision. I think we're going to have unity.
I like hearing that.
Any more questions, my dear friends?
No question, just a thank you to you, Brother Avi.
Love you, Donna. Love you very much. You and Pastor Debbie.
Yes, and I send love from her and your Love and Mercy family.
Right. And tell her as soon as this crazy mess is fixed by God, then I will come back to the States and visit with you guys.
Beautiful. Okay. Counting on that.
I think about your church all the time. I have good memories from all of you.
Oh, yes. Same with us.
Good.
We've had some great meetings.
Yeah.
And more to come. More to come.
Yes. Hopefully we're going to see the fruit of God's work.